Well, the Netflix Slam and MGM served up an ace in Vegas. Get ready for the most complete recap of the event from the guys that actually made it come to life. Yeah, today's panel isn't playing around. Sin City Beat starts right now.
From Las Vegas, this is Sin City Beat.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on Sin City Beat. I'm your host, Mike Davis. Thanks for hanging out with us. Sin City Beat is the show that dissects the Vegas sports world alongside the sports reporters and difference makers that are leading the charge. Now, on today's show, we're recapping the Netflix Slam. Yes, joining in on the action, we got Ryan Wolfington, the founder of the Inspiring Children Foundation, Tim Blankiron, CEO of the No Quit Tennis Academy, and Trevor Short, founder of Inspiring Dreams. Great to have you guys with us. So let's serve this up right off the bat. So before we break down what played out actually on the court, I think we need to learn how this event actually came about. So Trevor, twice this event was pushed back. To see it come to fruition, to see the follow through, what did it feel like for you?
It feels really good. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's 3 years in the making, and we finally pulled it off, and I think it exceeded all of our expectations. And really, it's been more than 3 years. I mean, this is something we've been really talking about with Ryan and the Inspiring Children Foundation now for probably 5+ years, so it feels really good.
So the initial seed of the idea, Ryan, maybe can you break down the initial seed of how this actually started?
Well, the seed is Trevor is a magic maker, and he is really good friends with Rafael Nadal, and he started the Necker Cup, which is like the premier celebrity.
Yes, Richard Branson. Correct. Everybody knows Richard Branson when you say Necker Cup.
Rafa said, "Look, I'll do a couple events with you," and he had it in Atlanta. And no offense to Atlanta, but like I was talking to Bob Mike Bryan yesterday, and he goes, there was something about that was so bigger than almost anything they've ever done. He's like, Vegas has this ability, it's like a prize fight.
Yeah.
He's like, you couldn't even pull that off in LA. He goes, even New York, it's like Vegas has its own, and I just said, you got to bring it to Vegas.
And you know what's, I mean, because let's talk about who was actually at this event. I mean, Charlize Theron, right? I mean, Michael Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, all these NFL stars, the whole LA Rams super squad team was there in the front row. So that star power, that Vegas personification really came into the mix. Tim, you were actually out on this court during warm-ups. I'm watching Alcaraz and Nadal kind of, warm each other up, and then I'm like, boom, that's Tim Blankiron right there. What was it like, I mean, to take in that energy, that electric feeling? What was it like for you?
I mean, it was just an honor to be on the same court as those guys. I mean, they're two legends of the sport. Rafa's probably going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. And to be able to share the court with them and observe, how they hit, how they interact, their professionalism, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity that I would absolutely love.
It was so cool. And Trevor, so I think, Necker Cup, right? We know Richard Branson, of course, everything he's done with Virgin. You had a lot of people come to this, superstars, celebrities, tennis stars, to see what played out on the court at Michelob Ultra Arena from a Vegas standpoint. Out of everything you've ever done, like Ryan was saying, this isn't Atlanta, okay? What was it like for you to just witness this all coming together? Did it turn out the way that you hoped?
Yeah, like I said, I really think it exceeded my expectations. It's of everything that I've done in the last 18 years, including the Necker Cup, which, trust me, we've had some pretty epic years on the island. This, I would say, is honestly at the top. I don't know if I expected it to be the level of play that it was. It was unbelievable. I mean, to see, I think it was 14-12 in the tiebreak. I mean, it was just, like I said, it exceeded my expectations.
And MGM did a phenomenal job. We got one more minute left here in this block, but I do think we have to say, I mean, the delivery method, this was a big conversation point during the press conference with all the players, even, during the preliminary stuff that had Query and, Isner and, Tiafoe and Taylor Fritz. Everybody was talking about the delivery method and the power of Netflix. I mean, in today's age, in 2024, the front page of Netflix is probably the best advertising you can get anywhere on the face of the earth. What kind of role did Netflix play in making this?
I had people call me like, oh, I saw this thing in Vegas on Netflix. I'm like, how do you see ads on Netflix?
Right.
But I'll tell you, the big hitter in the room was MGM.
Yeah.
So a lot of events that we've done over the years, there was a promoter, they own the event, and MGM used their facility. MGM leadership from the CEO, Hornbuckle.
Hornbuckle was there.
Yeah. So Lance Evans, Liz Manthe, they put their whole machine behind this thing. And really, if we're going to say who made this thing explode, I mean, they owned the event, but they made this thing explode.
See, there you go. MGM, Netflix, it's a perfect marriage. Just like this panel. This panel is a perfect marriage as well. Guess what? Guys, don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're discussing what played out on the court. Rafa versus Alcaraz. It was a spectacle. That's next. We're breaking down what happened on that beautiful black court. I love that black court.
You're watching Sin City Beat.
Welcome back to Sin City Beat. Well, the energy at Michelob Ultra Arena for the Netflix Slam was certainly electric. Between the two Spaniards, the crowd was certainly pulling for Rafa. Now, going into the match, Nadal led the head-to-head series 2-1. Nadal and Alcaraz's last meeting was back in 2022 in the Madrid quarterfinal. Now, Nadal pulled out that three-setter 6-2, 1-6, 6-3. Now, this time, the 22 Grand Slam champion, 22-time, I should say, Grand Slam champion, visited Vegas for the first time and faced off against the world's number 2 ranked player, Rafael Nadal, 37 years old, Carlos Alcaraz, 20 years old. Now, in front of a sold-out crowd of almost 10,000 people, Alcaraz defeated his childhood idol, 3-6, 6-4, 14-12 in the tiebreak. Now, Tim Blankiron, you were on the court during warm-ups. I saw you, pointed you out. You're right up close with these guys, helping them warm up. What surprised you most about their play and how everything played out on the court?
The first thing that stood out was the level of play. Like, I didn't expect Rafa to be that sharp under the circumstances, especially to come out the way he did. You would have thought that, you know, he'd be a little rusty, and he jumped out quick and was able to hold it to the very end of the first set. And then Alcaraz settled in a little bit, you know, upped his level a little bit. Rafa had a little bit of a dip in the second set, so Carlos was able to get that set, and then the tiebreaker was absolute. I mean, just outrageous. I mean, it was neck and neck all the way to the end, and then when Rafa pulled off that forehand line on match point, it was the best show in tennis, I think.
You know what's crazy? Because I think we're all tennis guys here on this panel. What's interesting is, you know, Tim, you're in the UNLV Athletics Hall of Fame. You won the 1997 NCAA doubles championship. The levels to this sport of tennis is what's fascinating to me. You go watch an NBA game, an NFL game, discerning the difference in levels when it comes to tennis is different than any other sport. You know,
right.
When we're seeing guys like Alcaraz and Nadal, guys who are like probably, I mean, Nadal's going to be a top 5 player all time, right? To see those levels, what are the things that point out to you that you can kind of express to our audience? Because I think it's hard to really distinguish those differences once you start talking about the levels in play.
Yeah, so basically in tennis, if you've got good technical skills and good physical skills, you basically just got a ticket to the show at that point, you know, because it's a mental, emotional game. And watching those two, one of the things that stood out was how joyous they seemed. You know, I mean, this is big pressure. These are big matches. You've got a stadium full of people, and they looked happy to be there and looked like they were loving it. And so obviously they've done a lot of work because it is big pressure, but it just separates, you know, the great from the good.
It's pretty special. And here, specifically in Vegas, we had a lot of no-quit Academy of Vegas guys playing in the preliminary stuff. We had Jeannie Bouchard. We had Asia Mohammed. Talk a little bit about, you know, Ryan, to see people rising through the programs here to be on that big stage. What does that feel like? And
it's being, you know, Agassi's play-by-play on Netflix. And Agassi really put Vegas on the map. I mean, we had Pancho Gonzalez and David Pate, but Agassi and Asia came through Agassi's program. And that's where I met Tim and I met Asia when she was like 9 years old. And it's just neat to see that little investment that he made in the community. And there's thousands of examples of this, but just Asia's one that got on the big stage. Yeah. And now she's top 28 in the world and playing Jeannie, and they're both being coached by Tim. It's just cool to see. And then the kids that are surrounding are all the kids that Asia now mentors and helps. So it's just a very kind of profound moment. The trickle-down effect in tennis is a special thing. Trevor, I'm sure you've witnessed this to many different degrees. Sure. Something, you know, I don't know if this happens in Atlanta. We're throwing a lot of digs at Atlanta on this show today. Probably doesn't happen.
But, you know,
if it did, they talk about
the power of tennis, the way that, you know, tennis has this, I think the reason why people identify and love tennis so much is that it has this, you know, kind of almost treehouse effect where you feel like you're a young kid and there's a 1 or 2 degree connection to everybody in the tennis world. But then the power of the sport and the way we see it sell out at MGM here in Vegas. Talk a little bit about that power of tennis and what it makes you feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I mean, I wasn't sure coming to Vegas. First event we've done here. What would the reception be like? And to see this thing sell out. I mean, it was pretty much sold out in the first 48 hours. It was unbelievable. So obviously, Vegas tennis is extremely strong. The power of MGM was unbelievable. And to your point, I mean, the connections in tennis is everything. It seems to be 1 degree. I mean, if you're in the space, everybody knows everybody. It's a small community.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing, especially to see with all the nature of the injury history of these two players and the way they came together and put on a show like that. It was a special thing. Guys, next up, we're taking an even deeper look at the relationship between Vegas and tennis. As we have a guy here on the panel who is practically synonymous with Vegas and tennis. And, he's so intertwined. He's the director of USTA in Nevada. If you look up Merriam-Webster in the dictionary with Vegas and tennis, it would be Ryan Wolfington, I think. He founded the website vegastennis.com. So yeah, we're covered here on the panel when it comes to Vegas and tennis. We're talking more after a short break. All right, Vegas and tennis and Vegas. It's a relationship rich in the soil with a select few difference makers really bridging the connections within the community. We're lucky to be joined by 3 of those difference makers today. So Ryan, when it comes to Vegas, you're really the man when it comes to tennis in Vegas. How have you seen the sport really grow throughout the Valley, and what does the success of this particular event, the Netflix Slam, mean for more and future growth of tennis here in Vegas?
I mean, when I saw that event, all I could see was the 30 years that went into making that happen from a community standpoint. I mean, no mistake about it, MGM made the whole thing happen, right? They nailed it. But I look at Billie Jean King bringing in World Team Tennis, where he was the coach of the team. I look at the Red Foo and the Party Rock Open. I look at the Courier events with McEnroe, Chang, Agassi, and Sampras. At the same arena.
Right.
And how each year we would just do bigger and bigger and bigger to prepare the city. Are we ready for this? And they rose to the occasion every time. And the city earned this. And there's so many leaders. I'm just the face of it. There's so many leaders that did that. Like Owen Hambrook, who did a tournament. The Party Rock Open, Tyler Weeks and Jordan Butler. So many people built that up. But it goes back to Kirk Kerkorian, the founder of MGM, played tennis with Marty Hennessy. He loved tennis. He used to travel with Connors. The Allen King Classic was in Vegas. Agassi used to go as a little kid because, Wayne Bryan, Bob and Mike's dad, says if you take a kid to watch tennis, that's like a year worth of training. They get so inspired. So Agassi was inspired. Yeah. David Pate was #1 in the world. Right. Pancho Gonzalez was #1 in the world. They ran Caesars. So, there's such a tennis history. But I'll be honest, I think this is the biggest match we've ever had. The biggest look we've ever had, ever.
What is this going to do to spawn future generations? I think we saw with the power of the Vegas Golden Knights, how many youngsters, have now taken to hockey, right? Ice hockey and the power of that. Is this event going to do the same thing, you think, for youngsters in our community?
Well, I think we've got a pretty strong tennis community as it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's different. So the Knights inspired hockey. It's the opposite here. The grassroots was so big,
right?
It inspired the pro level. What Florida and Southern Cal is to tennis, Vegas now is. In large part thanks to him, thanks to the Darling Tennis Center. We are a hotbed for countless elite athletes. People come from all over the world to train.
And let's break this down. So No Quit Academy, tell us what you're doing there. Because you also were the director of the, Andre Agassi School.
Right.
But No Quit, tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, the goal has been the same when I worked for Andre and for No Quit, is to get D1 college scholarships. So we're working extremely hard there, and kids are very, very dedicated. It's become very, very difficult. So the commitment level has to be there.
Yeah.
We're trying to get Division I college scholarships, but also focusing on the Ivy Leagues. We've had a lot of success getting. We've got kids in every Ivy League in the country right now, so we're pretty proud of that.
And then when it comes to Inspiring Children Foundation, give us the breakdown on that, because the way that is intertwined into this is beautiful as well.
When I drove down Washington Avenue and I saw Tim hitting with little Asia Muhammad and Stan Breland in the Agassi program, I pulled over. I couldn't believe it, because I just started playing tennis at Lorenzi, and I could barely hit the ball, and this little 9-year-old's ripping it. And I learned about what Agassi was doing, and it inspired the whole thing. So the Inspiring Children Foundation came because I was inspired by what Andre was doing. And I wanted to help a kid that couldn't get into his program because he didn't live in that zip code. So we just created the identical thing. And we added emotional and mental health. We're really big into mental health.
Yeah, and you do a lot with Jewel, and Jewel speaks a lot to that kind of stuff as well.
Correct.
So you're really creating not just an incredible tennis athlete, but a fully formed human.
It's a whole human is our theme, right? 10 pillars of healing and growth until they reach high performance living. And we deal with kids that have anxiety and sometimes depression or even suicidal ideation. And the sport of tennis, entrepreneur skills, competition, like project-driven learning. A lot of the kids helped with the event. You'll see the people running the ball kids, the player host. We really believe that kids learn by doing, and tennis is just one of the programs. But tennis is such a great sport to develop your emotions in your mind.
Yeah, you're fending for yourself out there on that court, unless you got Luke Smith with you.
Yeah, makes life easy.
That was his double partner when they won the national title for the NCAA in '97. Guys, you can't talk Vegas tennis without talking about Andre Agassi. Yes, we're talking all about him. Let's break. Well, guess what? After a short break, the panel and I are going to break down the influence of that man right there, Andre Agassi, and I was pretty starstruck talking to him. We got more details from Andre after the break.
I've watched this city change a lot. So, I was born and raised here, and when I turned pro in 172 years ago, there was about 300,000 people that lived in this town. And I would travel the world representing Vegas, having to answer some very basic questions, such as, what's it like to live in a hotel? And it's like, wait a second, Vegas is more than just, a strip with, so to watch it evolve to a point where now we're seeing not just sports come here, but we're seeing the greatest environments for sports to participate in, the Super Bowl and Formula One now here, and it's remarkable for me. I wish it was around when to have tennis come here now, especially with these two guys. What a gift to Vegas. And by the way, what a gift Vegas is to tennis, and there should be a much more comprehensive way for us all to enjoy it here. We're a city of well over 2 million people now. So there's an opportunity here to do a tennis event, properly and to do it in a way that can really, express the full expression of the sport. So for me, seeing it now is remarkable from this lens. This is a city of can-do, right? This is a culture of, if we dream it, we can build it. Our skyline is a representation of that. And so we dream it, we can do it, and we're watching it right here at the MGM. These two guys showing up. This should have happened last year, and it didn't, but we don't stop. It's happening tomorrow, and we're all thrilled about it.
That was Andre Agassi answering my question at the press conference on Saturday night prior to the match on Sunday. Now, let me just start by saying this. In my life, I've interviewed a bunch of celebrities and athletes. It's rare that I get starstruck. Agassi had me starstruck. My question to you guys, a former #1, an 8-time major champion, one of 8 men to achieve the career Grand Slam, the first man to win 4 singles majors on 3 different surfaces, born in Vegas in 1970, is Andre Agassi the most important Vegas athlete of all time?
Well, to me, the Grand Slams are nothing compared to what he's done for human beings. And I think of all the children that I got to see, Andre and Tim, and mentor and take on to an extraordinary life. Candace Boney, who's getting her doctorate degree now, already has a master's. To me, that's his biggest accomplishment. He pioneered almost the idea of giving back in the peak of your career, and how many people were inspired to do the same. I know Bob and Mike were inspired to do the same. I was inspired to do the same. How many people decided to use their platform as celebrity to help other humans, all because he did?
Tim, when you working closely with him, what is it, if you had to pick out one attribute about this human being, Andre Agassi, that makes him such a high achiever, such a special individual? What is that one attribute?
What makes him special is very spiritual. And if you met Gil Reyes, I think you'd have a better understanding of why that is, because Gil tends to be that way as well, and obviously they worked very closely for many, many years. But I would agree with Ryan. Like, it's one thing to be great at a sport, but it's another thing to use that to help as many people as you possibly can. And I was awestruck working for the guy. I had to pinch myself, like, the years that I was working for him, because I just couldn't believe it. I followed him growing up, obviously being a high-level tennis player myself. He was like a hero growing up. But after working for him, it went to a whole another level, and he's been an amazing mentor, and he's just one fantastic human being.
It's special, and you know what's so crazy? I mean, as we're talking about this, you mentioned Kirk Kerkorian. I feel like the word of the day here on Sin City Beat is intertwined because Andre's middle name is Kirk, named after Kirk Kerkorian. His dad, Mike Agassi, we all know, the storied past between him and his father and being trained here in Vegas, and he wrote a lot about this in his book, Open. It's amazing for the way that his father worked on the strip and the way he grinded on him as a young guy, and to develop as that kind of a human being is a special thing. But there's a lot of parallels. Trevor, you were, a big part of this whole Netflix Slam event. You said there's a lot of similarities and parallels between Nadal and his camp and Agassi and his camp. What are some of the behind-the-scenes stories you have from this weekend that are kind of fascinating?
Well, there's a few, but I mean, to first answer your question about their teams, I think, both of them have been with their teams for a long time. I've gotten very close with Rafa's team, and from his agent to his manager to his publicist to everyone, he's been with for probably 15, 20 years. It's a really close-knit group, and I think Andre is very similar. I had the opportunity to meet several of his people that were telling me, I've been with him for 15 plus years. So it shows a bit about their personalities and how close they get with the people around them. There was a couple really funny stories this weekend. I'll tell you one.
We got one. We got like 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I'll tell you one. So we were supposed to go out on the court at 12:40. To Netflix was going live worldwide, and my responsibility was to get Rafa out of the locker room. So I told him, I said, listen, be ready at 12:30. He said, no way, Trevor, I won't be ready at 12:30. He said 12:38. I said, okay. So I go in at 12:38. It's 12:39. It's 12:40. So if you guys notice, we were a little bit late. I'm like, Rafa, we got to go. Finally, he starts coming out, right? We're 12:42, so we're two minutes behind. We're walking into the hallway, and he goes, Trevor, I got to go to the bathroom.
See,
and I said,
it always comes down to that.
He said, I'm joking.
See, there you go. Listen, great panel. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time on Sin City Beat.